everybody. Welcome to A House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live on a Monday. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. Happy to be with you for this 12 o'clock hour. Do us a solid. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. Get notifications. Bingo, bango, bongo. I don't know why I like that so much, but I do. Do all three of those things. It would mean a lot to all of us. I got a birthday coming up in 2 months. Consider it an early birthday gift if you care about those types of things. A lot of stuff to get into today, man. The Longhorns killed the NFL draft combine, Chad. It really was like anything that we've seen before. And at the forefront were the pair of Texas wide receivers who had me coming out of the weekend saying a bunch of things that might sound like hyperbole, but I don't know that it is hyperbole.
Yeah, I mean, just incredible performances. I mean, what Adonai Mitchell did at the combine, or as we will now refer to him, the slow guy, what he did over the weekend really felt impactful. And you're like, whoa, this felt like he's going to move up and he's really notching up. And then it just became about, okay, let's see what X-Man can do. And he goes on to not only break that record catch, but break it in a way that feels very different than the last time the record was broken. I looked up John Ross stuff today. This is a very different story. John Ross couldn't run a second 40. John Ross hurt himself at the combine. John Ross needed surgery later on because of what happened. He literally hurt himself while running a 4.22. Xavier Worthy came back to run that second one and went and grabbed that 4.21 like it was his and then did a victory lap. So a very different feel for that. But now he is moving up. And yeah, these two dudes just put on a hell of a show. And it's got us discussing today, Catch, just exactly what they meant to Texas and what they're going to be to try to replace at Texas.
Cotton jumps in from the Specs chat. Worthy ran about 1,140 yards in your tardiness. Cotton, did you leave off a zero?
Yeah, right.
I think Mark says it best, 60 to 120 second delay is Worthy running a mile. Yeah, pretty much. The thing is, Adonai Mitchell, I started working on this as part of my column. I knew that the lead in my 10 thoughts in the weekend over at orangebloods.com, I knew that it was going to be about Jonte Cook. And in a weird way, this video is going to be another one about Jonte Cook in a second. But I knew that I was going to write about Jonte Cook because so many Longhorns at the combine keep telling us that Jonte Cook is a bad mother and that get ready in 2024. So, but I was writing section number 2 for Adonai Mitchell. And I was already thinking to myself, because I can't even tell you previously what the best combine performance by a Longhorn was, I'm pretty sure that Adonai Mitchell's in the midst of putting together the best combine performance by any Longhorn in history. And that might still be the case. It might just be that Worthy breaking the record has unfairly overshadowed what he's done. But I had seen a stat from a tweet from a company called Relative Athletic Score. And they have like this whole computer thing. They've got, I don't know, they've got some sort of metric system that allows them to rate receivers going all the way back to 1984, 3,063 different, 1987. From 1987 to 2024, 3,063 wide receivers have competed at the combine. And Adonai Mitchell had the 8th best composite score since 1987.
Wow.
And I was like, well, nobody for Texas has ever done this before. And I started thinking, Chad, I spent all weekend thinking about it. Who are the guys at the combine that just totally kicked ass at the combine? Because I don't remember any. I was like, well, maybe it was Earl Thomas because Earl got drafted higher than I would have thought. But then I looked at his numbers. He ran a 4.43 40. There wasn't really anything super crazy about his performance. I look up Marquise Goodwin. Marquise might have had maybe the best before Saturday.
Yeah.
He goes 4.27 in the 40. He doesn't have a vertical jump, but he's got a 132-inch broad jump, which wasn't, as far as Adonai Mitchell, crazy enough. I say crazy enough because Marquise Goodwin has competed in the Olympics.
Right. So you just said Marquise went 11 feet on the broad jump. Mitchell was 11.4. 4 inches past that.
And one of those guys competed in the Olympics, and it's not the guy with the 134.
Right.
Crazy. Or 136, I guess, right?
I guess that's right. 136. I wish they would just do the foot and inches so we didn't have to convert. But yes, 11 feet 4 would be
and
what?
Marquise,
136.
Marquise, yeah, I'm sorry. We're stepping all over each other. Marquise had, probably because I'm looking at these stats instead of looking at you, Marquise had smaller hands, shorter arms. But overall, that's what we're talking about. World-class athleticism. The best that the school has ever put together. And Adonai Mitchell, I think, pound for pound, puts together, again, when you take into consideration height, weight, everything, he's on his way to the greatest combine day in the history of the Texas football program. And then Xavier Worthy goes 4.25, which turned out to be 4.24. And then he went 4.22, which turned out to be 4.21. And I don't know what I expected of Xavier Worthy in the 40. Originally, they listed his prize pick number at 430, and I took the over. But as we got closer to the combine, Chad, I entered a prize pick entry for the less, thinking he's going to do it. He's actually going to go into the 4.2s, and that's bananas. And I've never considered that. And wow, I'm still speechless 2 days later.
The thing I love about the combine, I know there are those that don't get into it, but it can still take my breath away years later. Certain performances still get me years later. This one's it's going to be breathtaking forever. And one of the most interesting sort of parts of it for me, the effortlessness of it, he ran a sub 1.5 10-yard split. Just let that soak in.
So did Mitchell, by the way.
And Mitchell did as well. To get under that spot for 10 yards, to get up to speed that quickly. But catch, my wife made an interesting observation. When they showed it coming straight at you, she noted that his feet were kind of going outward for about the first 10 to 15 to 20 yards. Then they straightened up. It was almost like he was a sports car heating up the tires. And once he got the grip, then the rest of it was just bam, straight line. It was so impressive to watch. I could watch it over and over again, and I certainly have. But it's also, it just feels like there's even more to it. I really wish he could have done workout or would have done the workouts, because I think he would have impressed there. Catch, I think he's got a chance to be so much more than a novelty act. I know you and I both feel that way. A lot of folks feel that way. This is... It's funny. I thought of you right away because I thought, well, now Ketch has the official number to talk about he gets open better than anybody I've ever seen. Ketch, we might have just found out why he gets open better than anybody you've ever seen. It's because at 40 yards at Indianapolis, he did something nobody's ever done before at that position or any other.
I think my favorite part about the whole thing is as you're watching on television, when he was getting ready to run, the announcers didn't make a big deal out of the first one. They weren't even talking about him, right? We go to the second one, and it's like, it felt like Daniel LaRusso coming out for the Karate Kid. It was like, Daniel LaRusso's going to fight?
Yeah.
Xavier Worthy's going for the record? Like, there was this buzz, right? But on the first one, they were talking about something else. And before the time was posted, somewhere in between when he takes off and when he finished, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, who I might need to reach out to Daniel. He does love us, by the way. True story. Daniel will probably tell you once we get him on, we were the first people to ever interview Daniel Jeremiah.
It's true.
And when he was just at Move the Sticks and he wasn't Daniel Jeremiah, but he was just, so we'll get Daniel on the show. I'm pretty sure it's him talking, though. And in the middle of a conversation, he goes, oh, we're watching something special here. It's what it looked like. No other 40 I think I've ever seen I didn't need to see the time. And neither did Daniel Jeremiah. In the middle of it, he said, this looks different than anything that we've seen all week. And it was. And I don't know if I need to apologize to Zay. I thought some of this 4-2 stuff was bluster. And the reality is, if they made a television show out of nothing other than Xavier Worthy trying to go below 4.22 on the 40, I'd watch it every week. If every week they did a show where Xavier Worthy tried to set a new record for the 40, I would watch it every week because he ran that. And I'm still, like you said about his feet, I'm not convinced that it's as fast as he can go. Now I want to know, can he get in the teens? Because
when we were growing up, Catch, I believe the old legend of Deion Sanders was a 4.19, I believe. The supposed somebody got him at Florida State on a hand timer. That, I think, was the legend we would always hear, was a 4.19. So now I watch Xavier Worthy this weekend, and I'm thinking, is that unheard of? Like, is that now reachable? Is the legend of what Deion supposedly did, it was Deion or Bo Jackson or both, maybe both, claim a 4.19 at one point. Is it reachable now for a guy like Worthy? Because that did not look difficult for him.
The thing is, when you add the two things together, it's without question I think it's the greatest, because we could talk about Jordan Shipley and we could talk about Roy Williams, but they were never paired with anybody as, I don't even know who's first on the marquee with Mitchell and Worthy. I guess Worthy, because his overall career at Texas is more significant than Adonai Mitchell, but they're co-headliners. Yep. There's never been another pair of wide receivers at Texas that produced as much as they did as I think individual guys, and then combine that to what they are in the NFL, which is, as far as I can tell, those are the two best combine workouts by anybody at the University of Texas has ever put forth. You can put Marquise Goodwin third, and then there's a real drop-off. When we start talking about next year and Jonte Cook and he and Isaiah Bond, what they're replacing might actually be even higher than what they were losing a year ago when they lost Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson. And everybody was like, oh, they'll never be able to, like, no way the running game next year can be as good as it was a year ago. And then it turned out actually it can. I don't know. Like, I think it's better quarterback play gets you there, but wow. What we're asking this wide receiver core to do is replace those two dudes that just did that.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. If you want to jump in the specs chat, people are already in there, up to over 150 already. If you send us a super chat, obviously it will go right to the top of the list. Also, we want to thank our great partners here at Orange Bloods Live. I'm excited to tell you about one of our new partners. We were just talking about rebuilding stuff and replacing stuff. If you need to replace that TV, that big system in the house, if it's finally time, this is the place. Audio Visual Consultations. AV Consultations can help you do it. They have been in Austin, locally owned and operated. Listen to me. Since 1988. That's how long they've been doing this. That's how long they've been making sure customers are satisfied. If you want that badass man cave that everybody will be jealous of, if you've had that bigger screen in mind for a long time, they can handle it. And remember, let them handle everything. They can get a better deal on the TV than you can. They can get a better deal on the furniture than you can. They can get a better deal on the speakers than you can. And they'll put it all together for you, install it, and you will be extremely satisfied. 255-8678. Tom and the crew are silly. They still love phone calls. They want to talk to you. They want to get to know you. 255-8678. You can also hit AV Consultations.com. Check them out. The season's coming up. Make your plans now to get the best setup. And no matter what setup you had, even if you had an old 12-inch TV, even if you had like a handheld TV, Xavier Worthy's jumping off the screen at you. But to your point, Catch, what they're, as you were saying, where you're replacing these two guys, this is the extra reason I think you need to be portal savvy.
Yeah.
Because think about it. You got Mitchell through the portal. He had built himself on championship teams. Then he throws that season out there, then does it in Indy. Worthy does what he does. He's a guy that obviously you developed as a program. And now you mentioned the two guys. Maybe we're about to see transfer guy again in Bond. And maybe and then it's the guy you're hoping you grow him in Jonte Cook, that you're trying to replace what these guys just did. But and maybe the answer, Catch, is because it's those two. Maybe you need these other transfer guys, and maybe you need these other young guys, like replacing the productivity of these
great
two.
Point, Chad.
It might take 5. It might take 4, 5, and Nyblack to replace it all.
I was watching one of the final episodes of Game of Thrones. The big battle between no spoilers here. The undead. Was it the undead are like they're dead, so it wouldn't be the undead, but the dead army.
Yeah.
And like the good guys, all of our superheroes on the Avengers, the Hound, Jon Snow, like nobody can beat these guys in combat. But if you just flooded zombies at them, they could be overmatched. Like you could just be overcome with the dead. That may be what the receiver position has to do. Like maybe you got two superheroes, and the only way to do it is with like a bunch of guys. Yeah. Like everybody was like, why did they go get Silas Bolden? They already have Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond in the portal. Why go get Bolden? And the answer today may be, did you watch the combine this weekend? We're replacing some, as the poster on Orange Blood's named CS, who is not me for the record. Texas is replacing some dudes on this team that I think only now do we really have a real understanding of like, well, why did Texas get to the playoffs last year? Answers given. Because, I think we've watched so much Big 12 football that part of you wonders, how good are they really? That is the thing that moving to the SEC this year will answer, is that you'll answer that week in and week out. It'll be like, oh, they're on top of the SEC standings, or they're just behind Georgia. And it's like, oh, they're that good. Here's an example of how good they were at the combine and how talented, insanely talented this team is. Christian Jones. Let me give you his numbers from this weekend, Chad. Christian Jones weighed in at 6'5" and a quarter, 305.
Mm-hmm.
He has the largest hands at the combine. They're 10.62 inches.
Damn. I've never heard of that.
I've never heard it. Again, biggest hands at the combine. Like, I don't know. And I don't know even what context to put that in. His hands are huge. Yeah. Take a ruler out and then cut off like 1 inch of the ruler. That's his pinky to thumb.
I was going to say, and remember, it's that distance. Pinky all the way to the thumb. That's the 10-6. That's crazy.
No. 10-6. You're right. It's so absurd. I almost said 11-6. His arms, an 83.62 wingspan. Wasn't the biggest wingspan at the combine, but it was one of the biggest wingspans at the combine.
Yep.
And then he throws down a 5.05 time. And now people are talking about Christian Jones as certifiably a possible 3rd round pick.
Yep.
And he might be the 7th or 8th guy drafted.
And think about, okay, so let's go through everybody just in real quick. Jalen Ford had a little bit of a tweaked issue. He didn't do drills. Jonathan Brooks did not go through the drills because he's still recovering from the ACL. So that would mean 9 guys went through drill. Well, and Worthy obviously ran. So either ran or did drills. There's 9 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Name the one that was bad, Catch. Name the one that was even kind of average. Was anybody average?
Kelen Robinson, because he only ran 4.42, the slow bastard.
Yeah, let me tell you what. Kelen Robinson was 4.42, a 33 vert, 10.5 on the broad jump and catch. I know you're tired of hearing it, and so is everybody else. I still dig Kelen Robinson.
I do too.
Everything he did was smooth as it could be. It was hot buttered popcorn, and every rep I saw, I thought, I'm sorry, but that works in the NFL. An NFL team could make that work, and that is hard to deal with. I thought he looked great.
And he's only doesn't look great by comparing him to the receivers that did what they did.
Right.
And you know what? Let me tell you, to give you guys some perspective on this. Out of curiosity, Chad, do you even remember what Bijan did at the combine a year ago?
I did not recall what Bijan did. My guess would have been he was in like the 4.4 to 4.5 area in terms of the 40.
He had a 4.46 40-yard dash.
Okay.
Again, that's less than Kelen. I mean,
yeah,
it's a little slower than Kelen.
A little slower.
He had a 37-inch vertical.
Okay, well, that's 4 inches better than Kelen. That's freaky.
Well, but I'm not necessarily – I'm just talking about it in general.
Right.
He did a 124-inch broad jump.
Okay.
Which is like maybe 10 and a half feet.
Yeah, a little over 10.
And then he had, hands and arms. Not a huge deal with Bijan. His hands are actually pretty big, but not compared to Christian Jones. But like that's a really good workout.
Oh, yeah, it was.
But that's not like special. Like if I read that to you, you don't walk away going, well, we'll be talking about the Bijan Robinson combine from 2023 for the rest of our lives. It was good.
Right. The cool part of it was, here's the combo that I loved, and that's why I wish I could have seen Worthy go through drills, because I think people would have been even more impressed, because there's the freaky part of the numbers, and then there's the drills for me. Because the drills give you a little feel of what's it like on a football field. How does he move? How does he work? How does he do all that stuff? That's why Mitchell was so impressive, Catch, and he might be the best total package. The numbers were freaky. You pointed it out. It's top 10, like, measured stuff ever among receivers. But then when you watched him work, you're like, oh, that looked easy. That was fluid. That was smooth. That was good. I don't recall him having any big drop during the proceedings. The gauntlet looked great. Like, all the little boxes got checked for me on Adonai Mitchell.
Real quick. Can I tell you Brian Arakpo's combine?
Sure. I bet this one was a little silly.
Now, I'm going to go 40 first. Context is desperately needed.
Okay.
He goes 4.63 in the 40.
Okay.
Everybody has to understand how big of a man Brian Arakpo is.
I was going to say he was hauling, what, 280, 290? What was he hauling? I
don't think it was quite that big, but I need to
270-ish.
even look it up, like how big he was.
Yeah.
He did 39.5 on the vertical.
Oof.
He did a 130-inch broad jump. Which, for context, Marquise Goodwin went 132.
Brian Arakpo had a 10-10 broad jump? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
That's silly. That means Xavier Worthy went 1 inch farther than Arakpo. That's stupid.
And then he did, as far as I know, I don't know of anybody else at the combine. I'm curious what Justin Blaylock did on this. He did do 31 reps of 225.
Oof.
Which is the most that I've been able to find on record. Sergio Kendall did 25. Joseph Osai did 19. Put some respect on Arakpo's 31 reps of 225. So as far as the big guys go, Arakpo probably is the biggest freak of all time.
Yeah.
And real quick, if you're wondering, Roy Williams, why did he go in the top 5 of the NFL draft? 4.3740, back when 4.37 was fast. 39.5-inch vertical, a 132-inch broad jump.
Damn. He ran in the 4.3s at his size, too.
Yeah.
That's silly.
I mean,
Again,
Roy Williams is as freaky of a wide receiver athlete as Texas has ever had up until now. He's kind of joined by two others.
Up until Adonai Mitchell, and then, obviously what Worthy did. Man, talking about the Longhorns in the Combine, we'll continue to do that. Catch, why don't you tell them a little bit about my perfect franchise? Maybe Worthy and Mitchell weren't perfect, but they were damn close, and Andy can certainly get close as well.
I don't know if you can get more perfect than those guys did. I mean, one of them literally run faster than any certified NFL human being ever through the Combine. But Andy's right there with them, except his thing's not running 40s. His thing's helping you live your dream. You got an idea. You got a thought. You got a hope. You got a dream. You got a wish. You got all these things. You don't have a plan. That's what Andy helps you with over at myperfectfranchise.net. He helps you formulate and build your plan. And you don't start paying him until the plan starts being made, coming together. And it's not like he's looking for a money grab. I promise. Everybody that I've known that's worked with Andy through these ads has sworn by him that they needed help, and he was perfect for that. So contact him at Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Send him a text message, 404-973-9901. Just collaborate a little bit and figure out if it works, if you guys can formulate a working plan for making a dream come true and you building the business you've always wanted, being the owner and the head person in charge and nobody bosses you around ever, you can make that happen, and Andy can help you. myperfectfranchise.net.
We roll on House Divided here on this Monday after a big Combine for Texas. 11 guys show up and all kinds of stuff to talk about. Catch, maybe the only disappointment, I'll put it in air quotes when I say the word because I don't even think it's fair. JT Sanders talked about low 4.6s in his 40. He didn't quite get there. That might be the only thing I saw from a Longhorn where I'd go, oh, well, that wasn't quite what. And he said it himself, right? He set that bar.
That's why we're probably thinking this. I think Sanders, everything that I've read, he performed well enough to cement himself as the number 2 tight end in this draft and a likely second-round pick. So whatever he did, it wasn't bad because it certified that. But it didn't move him up. Nobody came out of the Combine thinking, he might be better than Brock Bowers. And, he might need to be in the first round. I don't know if his performance did that, but he was really good.
Yeah.
It's again speaks to the bar that was set. I mean, even Ryan Watts put together a Combine performance that's kind of silly. Did you see those numbers, Chad?
Yeah, they're really impressive. You rattle them off, and as you do, I'm just reminding everybody, 6'3", 208, and you give him the rest of the numbers.
And he's being viewed by the NFL as a safety. Mm-hmm. A lot of teams are looking at him as a safety. He worked out with the corners. And he had the second best 3-cone drill at 6.82 of all the corners that were at the Combine. Only 4 corners at the Combine ran sub 7. And he was at 6.82. He had a 4.13 20-yard shuttle and a 40.5-inch vertical. I know he had a disappointing season, but there are going to be teams that are like, we can do something with that.
Yeah, and I didn't even think it was perfect. Like I thought at moments he was, but he was. You could see it in a couple of those of the reps, a couple of the drills.
Yeah,
you could see the unique quality of what he is. And like you said, if I'm an NFL team, I'm like, wait a minute, he's what? He's 6'3". He's that kind of rangy. He's that kind of long. He's that kind of fluid in this drill. Like you just said, the cone drill, that kind of little bitty stuff that they care about. He went sub 7. Yeah, there is something there. Hopefully for his sake, he can prove to them that he could be an NFL safety.
He's got like first round measurements and testing and maybe like 4th round game.
Mm-hmm.
And where teams, and look, if he goes later than that, maybe, I thought Ryan Watts was really solid this year. I didn't think he was great, but I never thought he was bad. And in fact, when he got hurt, there was a whole lot of, we got to get Ryan Watts back on the field. Malik Muhammad, really good as a replacement, but you wanted to get Watts back on the field, all things being equal. It was a great look. Torrey Becton, hey man, I don't want to be your agent on YouTube, but if you don't have an agent, you need to get one. Texas strength and conditioning coach, guys, for those of you who don't know Torrey Becton's name because it's not a household word yet. 2, yeah, man, contract time at Texas. If it's me, I'm like, did you watch the combine this weekend? Did you enjoy getting to the national semifinals? I got to admit, I doubted Torrey Becton for a while. First couple of seasons, they go 5-7, they go 8-5, and you're like, I don't see it. When's it going to hit? Man, it's like taking a mushroom, and for 30 minutes you think to yourself, what's the big deal? Nothing's even happened. These things, this is nothing. I might go out and do some yard. That is kind of what Becton's performance has been. It's a slow burn.
Yeah.
But starting in September of last year, now going all the way through March, he feels very elite when you look at this Texas football team. You look at how they're performing at the combine. I mean, and it's not just two fast guys. It's guys at every position, including guys that we didn't even think were that quite athletic. I don't know that I would have thought of Christian Jones or Ryan Watts from a testing standpoint as much as I thought of them. I'm blown away. And, rather than doubt this Texas team, because I mentioned I did it with the running backs a year ago. Oh, there's no way they can't replace Bijan. Well, maybe not exactly, but maybe the production still gets replaced, even if it doesn't look quite as sexy. I don't know. I think the ultimate question of can they replace these 2 wide receivers? Well, they got Jonte Cook. They've got Isaiah Bond. They've got other receivers that appear to be really, really good. Maybe it won't look exactly like last year, but I'm not doubting that these receivers can't be replaced. And there's a part of me that thinks, is Jonte Cook going to end up in 2 years being in the draft and talked about in a way where we think of him as the top guy? Because all these dudes at the combine seem to think so, Chad.
Yeah. And you couldn't ignore it, right? We talked about it late last week. You couldn't ignore how many guys were talking about it. I think there is another interesting question about what we just saw. Real quick, our man Jared jumped in the chat, says, I just measured my hands, 9.5. You know what they say about a guy with big hands? Yep. Wears big gloves. Exactly, Jared. Exactly. Jared's got the 9.5. 10.6.
You know what Christian Jones calls you, Jared? His bitch.
He calls you doll hands. That's what he calls you. He calls you Jared Doll Hands. That's exactly.
Oh, that's cute, little man. Shake my hand.
Yeah. Oh, it's so little. It's so little. That's impressive. It is house divided. Jared jumped into the Specs chat. Thank you for doing that as well. Here's Lisa to let you know a little bit more about Specs.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
So, Catch, maybe the first time we've been able to ask this question in a while, because a lot of times what fans will do after the combine is you'll see your guy go freaky in a combine, and you'll think to yourself, did my team maximize that guy? I'll tell you that personally, I've done it a few times with A&M skill guys. An Aggie skill player. Hell, Achan's a perfect example. Devon Achan shows up at the combine, and he goes freaky, and he gets noticed, and he goes to the Dolphins, and he starts putting fantasy numbers up for people. And what am I thinking as an A&M fan? Yeah, I'm not sure my team got everything out of that guy. So let's go to Mitchell and Worthy. Have you sensed any of that with Longhorn fans? As happy as they were about the weekend, did they get to that next level of, well, wait a second. If it was that, do we feel like those guys maxed out at Texas? Has that been part of the discussion at all? Or am I just being a negative Nancy today?
real quick before I forget, just because I looked it up. Trace, because he asked this after I mentioned Murphy did 28 at the combine.
28.
So he's still less than a Rakpo.
Okay.
Anyway, just wanted to mention that. Are you kind of a jerk? Well, you're right there with me, baby, because I think one of the things that, a few people, look, it's being said, and the response is, why you be so negative? But did Texas get enough out of these two guys? And I think the answer is no. Because with these two guys a year ago, Quinn Ewers was very good. We should have been great with these guys. Mm-hmm. You can't have a more talented and athletic duo. Like it's scientific. Look at the numbers. Like that's not a subjective opinion. There's never been a duo as dynamically athletic and explosive as the two guys who just went to the combine. You can put Roy Williams in there, and disbanded Brotherhood says they were not considered the greatest duo by anybody until after the combine this weekend. I totally disagree, disbanded. I've had this conversation before. I mean, I don't even know who number 2 is. Is it either whoever Roy and Jordan Shipley were playing with? It's probably Shipley and Cosby.
I was thinking Quan and Jordan, yeah.
But no offense to Quan, he's not in the ball. He's not either of those two guys.
Yeah. And then when you talk about the achievement level as well, where did they get the team? That's where you got to give Mitchell and Worthy that extra notch, that extra notch of achievement.
Because one of the things, look, Mark, I would say this, disbanded. I've said I think Xavier Worthy is one of the 3 best wide receivers in school history. And I look at Adonai Mitchell, and I say I've said this numerous times. Texas is not in the playoffs without Adonai Mitchell, period. It's weird because Vegas never looks at one player and says that guy's so valuable that it changes point spreads very much. I mean, even a quarterback sometimes only feels like 3 or 4 points in a spread. If you take Adonai Mitchell off this team, maybe they win the Big 12, maybe, but they're not playing in the playoff. And you combine that with what I think about Worthy. I disagree that this has not been discussed ever. I think what happened this weekend is it became emphatically clear. We thought Zay might be 4-3. He's 4.21. We thought Adonai Mitchell might be really athletic, but maybe he's not a burner. Maybe he's not. He's 4.35, 4.34 technically.
4.34. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so you start to put those numbers on the production and the achievements, and it does stand out more after this weekend. But I disagree with the notion that we haven't talked about what this pair and its value was throughout the last football season. It's just a big topic today because of how much they showed out. Chat, a few more comments from the Specs chat. Always remember, Super Chat gets you ahead of the pack, even if your question's not even that good. I do like this one from Kevin. Sometimes it can just be this simple. Bring in 5-star athletes, everything gets better. Everything.
Oh.
Yep. The thing I would point out, I don't want to lose sight of this. Yeah, Chad, people are talking about Quinn Ewers has to be better. Because with those two guys, he was very good this season. He wasn't the best quarterback on the field against Oklahoma. He wasn't the best quarterback on the field against Washington. He never had better than a 163 quarterback rating. He had one. In the Big 12 championship game, he went for 184. But after September 23rd, which would have been the Baylor game, only had one game above a 163 quarterback rating the rest of the season. Everything was 163 or below from September 23rd all the way to the Big 12 championship game. He can be better. I think he's going to get better. I think that if we take the receiving duos out of the equation, I think Quinn Ewers got better last year. But was he great? No. With these receivers, should he have been better than very good? Probably, because we've talked ourselves into saying that between the receivers and the tight ends, Texas has never had a better skill set of players. And they went to the Final Four in the playoffs. Like, it all meets up. I don't know. Like, there's, people think you're being negative when you're only asking questions.
Right. No, I think it's fair. Here's another maybe fair question. I know it's not a great look, but remember when Adonai Mitchell was kind of running his mouth a little bit in that semifinal because they were not utilizing him enough in his mind? I'm not saying the combine justifies it. I am saying when you feel that full resume now behind you, it's like, oh, okay, that's the guy. That's the point he was trying to make. Catch. It's not like I'm just an egomaniac and I think you need to throw me the ball. It's like, no.
Well,
I'm that guy.
And to be fair to Quinn, a little bit for sure. When he's not able to connect with Xavier Worthy on deep balls, how many times have we had the conversation about running wide ass open and sometimes he's just too open? And then people get mad because he doesn't come back and fight with the defender for the ball when he's got 3 steps on the defender and just he just wants to keep running. That's all he wants to do.
Just take your time, X. Just take your time, man. Come back to the ball.
To be fair to Quinn, nobody's ever had to connect with 4-2-1 before.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
It's easier said than done. We're talking about, when we talk about Xavier Worthy, we're talking about the fastest human being ever recorded at the NFL Combine. I don't know if you guys know this or not. There have been some dudes. They've had some athletes. Xavier is faster than all of them. I know it sounds crazy. The words are coming out of my mouth. And I still can't believe that I'm saying nobody. What we've been watching for the last 3 years is acceleration and burst that has never existed quite like it before.
Not Tyreek Hill.
Not even Tyreek.
Nope. Not Deion.
So I think, having some mortals to throw the football to this year might help.
Yeah.
But whatever Jonte is, whatever Isaiah Bond is, they're probably not Avengers. They're not the Flash.
I'm sorry, man. I've been training with humans, and then you put them out there. I got to get. If you can give me some humans again, that'd be great.
Maybe not having. Look, I remember when I always bring this up with Quinn, and it's funny that it's an insanely fast guy that could be potentially the problem here. Troy Aikman had the Cowboys once. It's a long time ago for the kids. Look it up though. They once drafted a guy named Alexander Wright with the first pick of the second round. And I don't remember what Ace ran at the combine, but it was super freaky.
Yeah.
So the Cowboys drafted him. And Troy Aikman could never hit Alexander Wright in stride. Now, later on, we saw him hit Mike in stride a lot.
Yep. He could hit Deion in stride. Deion was fast as hell.
He could hit Alvin Harper in stride. Alvin Harper, freak of an athlete. But he never could quite hit Alexander Wright in stride. And they talked about it a lot in the early years when Ace Wright had just been drafted. It was like Troy's fault. Troy can't hit Alexander Wright. Sometimes a guy can be too damn fast when you're only asking him to go straight without the ball, no less. And maybe it's hard to hit a guy that runs 4.21 in stride. I mean, doesn't that explain it better than anything else? Like, that's better than, well, Quinn sucks. Well, no, maybe any quarterback or maybe 99 out of 100 quarterbacks struggle with that. Patrick Mahomes seems to do fine with it. But maybe there are some guys that struggle with it. Maybe having mortals this year makes the deep ball look better. But I'll also say,
there you go, Catch. Google says he ran a 4.14.
I'm telling you, Shook Ones is shook right now, Chad. He's like, wait a minute, what? Google said what?
Hey, Alexander was one of those guys that had a legend around him that was around that 4.2. Deion, him, Bo Jackson. There was a group of guys where they'd tell you, oh, yeah, man, we got out there one night at dusk and somebody hand-timed him at 4.18, 4.19, 4.20. We were like, okay, all right, fellas.
Mark says Ewers won. I don't care if he had huge individual stats because his turnovers went down and he played better. Mark, Texas won. They were good enough to get to the semifinals. I would argue that Ewers not being better in the semifinals. Think about this. Ewers had one of his worst games of the season against Washington. What if I can't even remember what it was off the top of my head. You know what? Hold on. Anwar's got the Quinn Ewers stats somewhere in here. Let me see if I can find these. Is this it? I'm going to pop. Here it is. Chad, Quinn Ewers against, it doesn't have Washington. It does. We got to take the chat down. Will you unclick Mark?
Yeah.
Look at the Oklahoma game. Oh, excuse me, the Washington game. He completed 55.8% of his passes. From an efficiency rating standpoint, worst game of the season, 125.6.
Yep.
What if he's just won? What if he's 140? They win that game.
Right.
They do. If
He still had
Ewers,
right. They still had 4 plays from the 12 with those 2 receivers on the field, and they couldn't figure it out.
look at the Wyoming game, 11 of 21. He throws 2 touchdowns, but he only completes 52.4% of his passes. That was a 136. He was 11 points lower against Washington. It matters. We're now talking about a program, Mark, and I don't disagree with you to a large extent. I mean, we're talking about really fine margins here. Was Quinn Ewers very good last year? Yes. Did the Texas football team, were they great as a byproduct of having a very good quarterback? Yep. Did they have enough to win a national championship? No, they didn't. And on that night against Washington, quarterback performance really mattered. Oklahoma, why did they lose that game? Because Quinn Ewers was bad in the first quarter. He made up for it through the rest of the game, but Oklahoma that day had the better quarterback on the field. All in all, Ewers ends up very good, but not better than that. These are the things that define whether you win a national championship or don't. Because we're now at a point where when we talk about this team, that's the prism through which we talk about it. It's not about can they win 9 anymore. Sark, they call him 7-win Steve, and he has now. Been in the playoffs. They won a Big 12 championship. They scratched some haven't dones off the list. Ewers is a championship quarterback. Can't take that away from him. He beat Alabama. Can't take that away from him. He was the MVP of the Big 12 championship game. Can't take that away from him. He was not great last season. He was mostly very good. It's not insulting to say that about Quinn either. Because this is what came up, Chad, when people were asking these questions on Orange Bloods. Why are you being so negative?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's a fact. It's not a subjective take to say that a guy that finished with a 157 quarterback rating for the season was very good. It's not subjective to say he needs to be better to be great. And when we talk about replacing this duo, and Chad, I'll be the last thing I say, and we can segue into buy or sell after that. I'm actually kind of proud of my questions today. I like my last 2 a lot. I really like my last one a lot. One of the ways where Texas can potentially replace this duo, Quinn gets better.
Yeah.
Like last year, we can talk about last year. Did they get enough out of those guys? Well, they got enough to win the Big 12 championship. Did they hit the optimal level? Did they get everything? No, they left some meat on the bone with those receivers. But they don't need to have as talented as receivers, Chad. Worthy doesn't have to be better than Jonte Cook. Jonte Cook can just be mini Xavier. And Isaiah Bond doesn't have to completely be Adonai Mitchell from a skill talent standpoint. If the quarterback play is better, if Ewers evolves into the guy that we think that he can, do you know what great quarterbacks do? They elevate the talent around them. And if this duo can be replaced, Chad, I think it has more to do with Quinn Ewers reaching that next level than it does whether or not Jonte Cook and Isaiah Bond can replicate what the guys that left just did in Indianapolis.
Gonna be a great point. We'll keep our eyes on it, obviously, as we get closer to the season, a little bit closer to spring practice beginning as well. Before we get to buy or sell, let me remind you, Sinus and Snoring Specialists can help you get to breathing better. Spring break's on the way. I'm gonna take a little trip with the family. If you're doing the same kind of thing, one of the worst things about taking a trip is if you sleep bad. Don't you hate that? You go on vacation and you sleep like crap. That's not what you want. Sinus and Snoring Specialists can get you sleeping better, feeling better, resting better, and then everything else is better after that. I went in and saw them in 2017. I've never regretted it one day since. Get on in there. That's your QR code to scan. The number's 512-601-0303. You can go to sinussnoringent.com if you prefer, but flat out, they can get rid of your allergies for good. They can get rid of all that sleep apnea, snoring stuff you've got going on, and they can just get you feeling better. Sinus and Snoring Specialists, feel clear, rested, and healthy. All right. I think it's about that time. Jeff Ketchum says he's proud of his questions. If you're that proud, does that mean you're going second?
You know, I'm looking at them now. I want to go second for my last question because it might cause a 30-minute breakout session to occur.
Fair enough. I do love a buy or sell that produces a breakout session. That's always good. All right, here we go. Let's start with the draft. Buy or sell. Number 1, Murphy, Mitchell, and Worthy. First round.
Buy. I think Texas will have 3 first-round picks, and I think they'll have 3 second-round picks.
Woo, 3-3. That'd be a hell of a start to the draft. For Texas, we will see. How about a first-year catch? Buy or sell number 2, Worthy catches 50-plus in his rookie year.
So I'll go a little less than that.
Okay.
Because I don't know what teams he's – you know what I mean? I'll ask him that question after the draft, and depending on the situation that he walks into, like if he were to go with the Chiefs, I think Xavier Worthy could catch 80 passes next year as one of the maybe the Chiefs number 1, considering – how bad that wide receiver unit is. So maybe is my answer, but for now I'll sell. But you know what? Ask me that again in 53 days.
Here's an interesting number, Catch. I looked up John Ross. His career to this point, and right now he doesn't have much of one. He's tried to make a practice squad, and I think it was with New York. Anyway, his best number of catches is 28. That's the most he's caught in an NFL season. That's the guy, obviously, whose record Worthy just broke. I think he can be so much better than those numbers. We'll see. Buy or sell, number 3, Catch. You'll play the odds. The Horns are hard to beat in those last game and enemy territory situations. Texas Hoops beats Baylor tonight.
So, it's two good things potentially happen when I sell on buying Texas basketball. Mm-hmm. The first good thing is I'm right. Like that can happen. Mm-hmm. And then 2, if I'm wrong, like that's a good thing. If I doubt the Longhorns tonight and they win, then we all get to make fun of me tomorrow and say you didn't trust and you had no faith and you were scared. And I get to go, yeah, man. And who knew? Right now, Baylor's been really good at home. I'll take the Bears tonight. Prove me wrong, Texas Hoops. A great man named Chad Hastings said that a couple of weeks ago. Prove me wrong. And they did. So prove me wrong.
There you go. All right, let's hit the birthday front, Catch. Buy or sell number 4, Jessica Biel had a birthday yesterday. Prime on prime. Jessica Biel, hotter than Jessica Chastain.
Easy buy.
Okay.
Just Jessica Chastain's a beautiful woman. She's sexy as hell. Jessica Biel's next different planet level sexy. And I don't think Jessica Biel's the sexiest woman of all time, but she's superstar sexy though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Happy 42 yesterday to Mrs. Timberlake, by the way. And finally, Catch, buy or sell number 5. Yesterday was also Tone Loc's birthday. I'll take you to their prime for one big show. You'd rather see Tone Loc than Young MC.
Buy.
Okay.
And here's a little known story about Tone Loc.
Okay.
Back when at his apex, he did a show in Austin. Mm-hmm. My mom covered the show with the radio station that she worked at.
Okay.
And Tone Loc took a pass at her. Whoa. Swing and missed, but took a swing nonetheless.
Tone Loc hit on your mother?
Oh yeah.
That's exciting. Did he try Funky Cold Medina as part of the ploy?
I wonder if she would even remember that story now. She told me that when I was like a teenager. She was like, "Oh, I met him last night. He tried to wanted me to come out and party with them a little bit later on." And I was like, "No, I need to get home and be with my kid." But you know what? I should call her up on the air and make her relive the story, see if she remembers.
Hey, some people don't know that line about, like Mick Jagger said, "I can't get no satisfaction." He wrote that line about your mother when she said no.
By the way, for those wondering, my mom once took a pass at Huey Lewis and failed as badly as Tone Loc did with her.
Hey, gotta take a shot, right? Gotta take a shot. You miss
the shots you don't take.
That's it. You miss 100% of the ones that you don't take. All right, that's my part of buy or sell. What do you got, Catch?
Buy or sell, number one. Nice questions, by the way. You thought Xavier Worthy was fast last year during the season, but you're semi-shocked that he's faster than Marquise Goodwin.
Buy. Yeah, I'll admit I didn't quite know it was to that level. I did think he was going sub 4.3. I thought it was gonna be where that first run was. I thought we were gonna come back talking 4.25s, maybe 4.24. I didn't think he was gonna go. I thought he was gonna be in Chris Johnson land. I didn't think we were going all the way to history. So yeah, I'll buy that. I was surprised. It was so fun to watch.
Chris Johnson wishes he was in Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy. Which leads me to buy or sell question number two. Xavier Worthy might have been faster, but you thought Adonai Mitchell had the best combine of the Texas players there this weekend.
Yeah, buy. I think it's a better total package of what we saw. Had Worthy been able to go through drills and shown you more of a full resume of stuff, yes. But the full combine discussion at the size Mitchell is, to be that big, and that it's like, I mean, for Mitchell, I don't know if it's quite the comparison, but I kept watching him. I kept thinking, like, is he like Mike Evans as a burner? Like, Mike's not slow, but is he just like a Mike? I mean, and he's not quite that big, maybe, but it's like right around that size, and he's just an absolute burner. I thought he had a better overall combine. Yeah, really impressive.
Buy or sell number three. Late third round is too high for Christian Jones.
Late third round is too high for Christian Jones, meaning that too high as in he should be drafted lower in the draft.
Correct.
Yeah. Late third. No, I'll sell that. Considering what he's done at that size, good combine performance, I'll say he's worked his way into late third round. I'll say he pulled it off.
I'll agree with you. I was trying to set you up. It was a total setup question.
Okay.
But man, I have seen some offensive linemen not as good as Christian Jones.
Yeah.
Go on the third round. Believe me.
And that's why it's great to see him guiding. You know, you get to see him all there at the same time at the combine. He looks smooth as hell. Like, he looked like he's carrying that weight in a really good way. You mentioned the freaky hands.
He looks like an NFL football player.
He really does. He has turned himself into that for NFL teams. And now let's see. Let's hope it's, like you said, let's see if it can be second or third round. That'd be awesome.
All right, buy or sell number four. I did a Steely Dan top 10 last night on 10 Thoughts from the Weekend. And strangely, nobody's bitched about the list in the last 18 hours.
Okay.
Which never happens. Buy or sell number four. Hey 19 might not be the best Steely Dan song, but it's the one that comes to mind when you think about the band.
Sell. Not much comes to my mind when I hear Steely Dan. I've never been into the band. They're not much for me. I know a lot of people are really into Steely Dan. I never had a connection point to them. When you say Steely Dan, I think because I read your 10 Thoughts, I could maybe come up with a title or two, but they don't mean anything to me.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
not a Steely Dan guy.
I'm not a Steely Dan guy. They're not an important band to me.
They're so quirky that I thought you might have been. Maybe they're just not hard enough for you.
That is probably the case. They kind of fall into that safe white rock and roll category.
Oh, they're yacht rock now. Yeah.
I just don't get enough out of them. I'm not challenged enough by it. I've got easy listening music. It's just different stuff. I'd rather go more to a James Taylor vibe than like let's just rock out, man, and let's just go for a while. Like, all right, it's not my thing.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. Thank you to Chris Bennett, loyal viewer of the show. He might be out there in show chat right now in the Specs chat. 30 years ago today, the great John Candy passed away.
Oh, wow.
30 years.
That's 30 years since he died?
Yes.
Oh, God.
30 years since he died in 1994, and he's still John freaking Candy. Yeah. And my question for buy or sell is this. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is without question the best John Candy movie. Buy or sell?
Oh, it's interesting. It's definitely in the discussion. He's a great John Candy in that movie. And
one of the reasons why he's so great is not necessarily because he's funny, but he hits you in the feels.
Oh, yeah.
By the time you get to the end of the movie and Steve Martin realizes on the train that he's not going home to anybody. Oh,
yeah. No. He's really, it's a really, really good performance. And it's a movie that's it's a great little time capsule of a movie in a lot of ways. Man, I think I'm going to buy, if I was going to strictly go on my personal feelings, I might pick a different movie, but you didn't do it that way. You said is the best John Candy movie. In terms of the movie itself, yeah, I think it's probably Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because it lives across time better than any other one I can think of.
What's number 2 for you? Like, what's in your head?
Like, my favorite performance is Uncle Buck. I'm an Uncle Buck guy. But if I say, is Uncle Buck a better movie than Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Probably no. His performance is better for me. I think it's the best Macaulay Culkin, even if you consider Home Alone movies. But that's my selfishness about Uncle Buck. I just have a special place for the movie. But Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is the one that people will go back to. They celebrate it. I know people of all walks of life. I know different ages, both genders, all these different people. And they'll come back to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles every time.
When it's on, it stays on. Like if I see it, it is one of those movies. It's like a rewatchable on Bill Simmons' podcast. But when it's on, the TV stops.
That's a great one to bring up. And here's the other thing I'll say to about John Candy 30 years after his death, which is sad to think. In a way, Catch, I could argue that John Belushi and Chris Farley were both ultimately trying to get to John Candy, and they never did. They just didn't. They never fully became that guy. But I think John Candy, when we're talking, like in wrestling, when we talk about best big man, I think John Candy, best big man comedic actor, maybe ever.
He's the Dusty Rhodes of comedy.
He really is. That's a good way to say it.
There's no funnier scene, I think, in any comedy movie I've ever seen than the 5 minutes in Splash where John Candy's playing racquetball. And that was one take.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, I love hearing stuff like that where they pull stuff off. Dude, I haven't sat down for Splash in a long time. I literally might have only seen that movie once all the way through, and it was 80. I might have been the year it came out, 2 years after it came out. I haven't watched Splash in a minute.
Go back and watch that scene and then realize I think he shows up hungover and was late or something like that. And anyway,
dude,
they were rushed and only had like 15 minutes to record the scene. And he basically told him, like, I got this. And it's like one take, and it's mesmerizing how funny he is. It's impossible almost to believe. He gets hit in the head and in the nuts in the same, like, one take.
Yeah, that's awesome. God, I'd never heard that it was one take. Those are some of my favorite movie stories. Have you ever seen Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly?
Oh, yeah.
He does the famous scene at the end with 103 fever. He's like, they said
sometimes
he was dead.
The Michael Jordans of the world are just going to Michael Jordan no matter how much you try to handicap them.
Exactly.
By the way, Tucker says for $5 buy or sell, thank you, Tucker. If David Pierce doesn't get his pitching staff figured out this year, will it cost him his job?
Man.
I'm going to sell that for now, Chad.
It's a tough one. I get what you're doing there, Tucker, because losing those 3 games is one thing, but to fall down 6-0 in the first 2, and then you can't hold an 11-3 lead in the third one, Like, it's 3 different ways to get. It's like, would you rather me stab you in the neck? Would you rather me stab you in the stomach? Or would you rather me just stab you in the, side of your leg? So, yeah, but it all speaks to that pitching staff. That's got to get fixed immediately. He's made himself pitching coach. I get why Tucker's going there. There's going to be some heat. Whether it means the job or not is one thing. There'll be heat big time if their pitching staff keeps looking like that.
Tucker, what I would say is there are some Texas baseball fans who are of that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Is Chris Del Conte and his bosses in that mindset? I mean, that ultimately is the big question. Penny for Kevin L type's thoughts, because as we've seen, if that man's determined about something, things get done. Last comment, I'll let Cotton sneak in. Love Summer Rental. It has always been my take that Summer Rental is the most underrated movie from the 1980s. It's spectacularly good.
My wife loves that movie. Loves it. The two Candy movies she loves that we haven't talked about are Summer Rental and what's the Great Outdoors with Aykroyd. She loves those 2 movies. My wife is a camp vacation kind of person. You make a silly comedy about camp or vacation or both, my wife's in. She loves that stuff.
You've seen Summer Rental, right?
I have, absolutely. I love the wife in Summer Rental. Kids are good in Summer Rental. There's that is a nightmare beach movie, and it's you're just hoping you never live that movie when you watch it.
Last thought about John Candy and Summer Rental. When his family goes to the movies, John Larroquette's in the movie, and so the wife and the kids go hang out with John Larroquette and his son, right? In the background, there's a Footloose poster on the movie wall, right? So when they're in the movie theater, the movie coming soon is Footloose. What's interesting about that is I remember going to see Splash in the movie theaters back in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie opposite Splash at the Waco movie theater at Richland Mall was Footloose.
Wow,
so John Candy's doing a movie where Footloose is being promoted, but in the movie that he had made before, it came out at the same time as Footloose. I may be the only person in the world that knows that, because I'm the only person in the world that remembers. Thing is, the Waco Mall used to be closed on Sundays, because of God.
Right.
God didn't want the malls open in the 80s.
I'm just happy to know Waco showed Footloose.
Oh, they did, believe it or not.
I'm kind of surprised. I thought maybe they'd try to shut it down.
Sundays, no less, Chad. We didn't know, but it was about to get really weird in Waco. The malls were closed in Waco for almost the entire 80s.
Wow.
I don't know when they start opening up the malls. Movie theater inside the mall was open, and I always remember how eerie it was to walk through a closed mall to get to a movie theater. It's just you don't realize how noisy malls are until you're in a completely sterile one. And then you're just I'm the only person here. Anyway, I'm done rambling. You got anything else?
We got one more thing here, and shout out to Cool Runnings there with Disbanded. If you could
that might be my mom's favorite. I mean, my wife's favorite. She loves Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings is a great movie. Catch, if you could slide that one off the screen, I just want to give them one more taste before we get out of here, and it's a taste on Main. It's right there in Buda. It is from the good folks that bring you Hayes City Store. The Hayes City Store, folks, that's Travis and Tamara. This is just that, but just crank it up to steakhouse level, baby. Steak, seafood. How about chicken fried ribeye? Yeah, they can do that. Incredible drinks, desserts. They've got a couple different bar areas, including an outside bar area that's incredible. Got great stuff inside. Best part is it's just a cool, calm, casual atmosphere. Don't think of it as a stuffy steakhouse, but definitely think of it as a badass steakhouse you want to go check out. My wife and I are heading over there very, very soon. We had our plans to get there. Some things happened that didn't quite work out, but we're going to get over there. We're going to celebrate some anniversaries or whatever we can think of, because Taste on Main is incredible. Right there in downtown Buda, you see the address, 116 Main Street in Buda. So if you've been out to Hayes City Store and you love it, go check out Taste on Main there in Buda. All right, Catch, we good?
When we're off, I have to tell you something that just happened that I'm not sure if actually happened, but it's being displayed in a way that I think it might happen. It's definitely a buy or sell question for tomorrow. So
Okay.
kids, because otherwise the show's never going to end. So thumbs up button, kids. Like the page, subscribe to the channel, get notifications. We will see you later this afternoon. A 5-star has made his decision on when he's going to visit Texas. It's Michael Fasusi, for the record. And I think it's a great sign. We'll talk all about that in the recruiting hour. But for now, for Chad and myself and for everybody associated with Orange Bloods Live, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything you do for us. We'll talk to you soon. Later.